Great. So now we're going to look at the disclosure rule. And the idea behind the disclosure rule is that you can test an ethical decision by asking how other people might judge your action, or how you would feel explaining what you were doing to a larger audience, like the community, a family member, or the media even. Now, the criticism is different kinds, and it's the same argument that you find in the stakeholder theory, different groups that you could disclose your behavior to would react differently to what you're doing. So some people may think that what you're doing is a wonderful thing, but others may think it's a terrible thing. And so there's no real clear guidelines. And some people have very different values. Let me give an example of the disclosure rule kind of working and how maybe it doesn't necessarily work. Actually, I can give you 3 examples right now. I think about when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and my frat brothers were kind of nasty. They didn't like to be cleaned. And so every Sunday we would clean the house, and my standard was, you should be able to clean this house to the point that your grandmother should be able to walk in and use the bathroom and not freak out. And so that was kind of the standard that we used, and that was a pretty high standard. And it worked out pretty well, because one time my grandma did come over to the frat house to see what it was like, and she had to use the bathroom, and she remarked how nice it was that we didn't all live like a bunch of animals, which is the stereotype of some people in fraternities. Okay, that's one example. Another example that comes to mind, like when I was in graduate school in France, some of you who have been to France may know that people will let their dogs defecate all over the sidewalk and nobody will clean it up. And what we had at our school is they had spent all this money on really fancy furniture. They called it connected furniture. So they're really comfy chairs, and the base of the chair you could plug in for like an internet connection. You could charge your phone and your computer and stuff. So there's like a little electric outlet and an internet connection at the bottom of the chair. This is really expensive, fancy, nice-looking furniture. And you'd have all these kids in the school who would step in dog feces all over the place and then put their feet right up there on the furniture. And I remember I was so mad because they were destroying this beautiful new furniture. And I looked at this kid and I said, "What would your mother say if you saw you put dog feces all over the chair?" And he said, "My mother would say that she's paying the tuition and I can do whatever I want." So what was acceptable to his mother clearly would not have been acceptable behavior to my mother. So it depends on whose mother we're asking, right? Another example of this is one of my students works at a store, I won't name it, and they had pigeons that were in the rafters of the store. Now typically what you do is you get pest control or animal removal expert and then get the pigeons out of the rafters in a humane way and everything. But one of the managers of the store decided he'd bring his pellet gun to work instead and shoot the pigeons out of the rafters. And he was passing around his pellet gun, and I guess they were having a great time shooting the pigeons out of the rafters. But then somebody from the local media found out, and it was on the news that evening, that they were shooting pigeons out of the rafters in this store. That manager got fired, and so did the other subordinates that were using the pellet gun to shoot the pigeons out of the rafters. Now, if they just thought, what do you think the wider media would think of our behavior? Maybe they would not have done that. So that's another example of how the disclosure rule could have saved them some trouble. So in our next video, we're going to talk about the doctrine of the mean.